the sun. This might look like whiskey or lager. I can assure you it's tea. Hi, welcome to another video and welcome to the first episode of what I hope, if I remember and stick to it, will be a new series. I'm hoping to kind of do this every couple of months, maybe every quarter, and I just thought I would do a chatty update, but let's make it official. Let's call it a new series. I'm going to call it Less Books, More Chat. I like that because it's still going to involve books. I was going to call it Everything But the Books, but everything I do is books, like my jobs and my studying and reading for fun, and pretty much everything, except for maybe, oh no, a lot of these things I'm going to talk about today are actually books. So less books, because it's not all books, but more chat. Okay, so that's what we're going to call it. I asked in my last video, well, I mentioned that I was going to do this, and I did ask if anyone had any questions, if there's anything they wanted to know about. So I had a few questions which I'm going to address here, and I've had questions in other videos as well. So quite a few of those things I'm going to talk about. Firstly, I promise it's not whiskey. Look, I'm going to show you. I brought this over because I want to recommend a tea. I feel like that's the thing I've seen other booktubers do. This is the tea that I'm currently drinking. It's by a company called Good Earth, and it's a white tea, and looks like whiskey. Anyway, this is elderflower and pear tea. Now it looks really fancy, but I'm pretty sure I got this in Morrison's. It was quite cheap, and it smells so good. It's amazing. I really, really love it. So this is what I'm drinking this afternoon. It's absolutely boiling hot, but it's quite chilly outside, so this is actually quite nice. So let's start, I guess, with some bookish things, and then we can move on to some other things. There will be timestamps and chapters, so you can skip ahead if you want to. I'm going to tell you a little bit about an update on some of the book prizes that I'm reading through, because someone asked me about that, and sort of, I guess, TBRs of that sort. I want to talk about one book which I heard about recently, which is coming out in 2026, but I know I will explain why I really want to talk about that. I want to talk about some PlayStation games that I've been playing recently that I think bookish people might really like. I'm going to talk about maybe some things that I've been watching, but it's mostly to do with what's going to be taking up a lot of my time soon. And I will be doing a PhD update, which somebody asked me for as well. And I'm looking at my list here. I've written personal down last, so we'll save that for the end. But somebody asked me if I have actually read any of the books that I opened for my book advent calendar in December, or if it's just added books to my TBR. I mean, I think we all know the answer to that, don't we? Obviously, I don't read the books that I film myself opening. I always actually intended for that book advent calendar to, I guess, kind of make up my TBR for 2025 and to work my way through. I was really lucky in that only 2 of the books that I opened I had previously read. Now, those books I have already sent off to a local hospice charity shop that we always donate things to, so they have already gone. So out of the 24 books, 2 of them already gone, and I have read 2 of them, so I've got 20 books left, and I'm not mad about that. I'm quite happy. I think that's quite good, actually. The next things I just wanted to talk about was 4 book awards that I'm reading through this year. Just a really quick update. I very rarely try and read a whole long list before the winner is announced. I kind of like to take my time reading it. I might actually do that with the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction. I might get around to reading them all, but I'm not rushing. And one thing that I really wanted to do was to read all of the long list for the Baillie Gifford Prize before they announced the next long list in about October. I don't know what's going to happen this year because they're under a lot of pressure to drop Baillie Gifford as a sponsor, and I think it would be great if they could find a different sponsor, but sponsorship is very, very hard, and I hope it doesn't end the book award, but I am aware and I agree with the need to get a different sponsor, so we'll see where we are, I think, but it's normally about October time. So last year they had 12 books on the long list, and I have now read 7, so I have 5 still to read. I'm currently about 70% of the way through one of those 5. One of the 5, actually, I put on hold, this will be in my haul actually for March, but I put on hold at the library when I first heard about the long list way back in October. And since then, the paperback has been released and they have finally sent me, because I also put a hold on that, they have finally sent it to me. So we're in March now and it's taken 6 months to get this book. So I do now have all of the books to read, so I should be able to finish that definitely by October. The other thing that I'm reading is also the Climate Fiction Prize. I did a whole video reacting to the long list. I don't really do reaction videos, but I didn't think many people were talking about the Climate Fiction Prize. So I did a whole video about that. I recently watched a video that Bob the Booker did, because he read, of course, he read all of the long list and did a whole video talking about his thoughts on that. I will drop a link below to that if I remember. That was really great. I really loved his video, and he gives such really great insight into all the books. And even when I think it was obvious that some of them he didn't love as much as others, but he found something really constructive to say about all of them. And I thought that was fantastic, and way better than I normally do. But I started reading that. So there are 9 books on the long list, which is a very small long list. I had already DNF'd one of them when the long list was announced, and I have since read 3 on the list. So I've only got 5 left to read. And I have decided with this to actually make this quite a low priority. I may continue to read all of the list, or I may read them all before next year's. Hopefully there'll be another year, because it's a brand new award. I don't know if it's going to be around next year, but I think I've made it low priority. I think firstly because of the books that I've read, so I've read 3 of them. I really didn't like one of them. I was kind of indifferent to another, and I gave one 5 stars. So I'm not quite sure where I am with the award yet. I'm kind of, I'm undecided whether I like it. I guess I would need to read the whole thing to decide if it's an award for me. But I've really struggled to get hold of some of the books. One of the books is the second in a series, so I haven't been able to get hold of the first one to read it. It's a very popular book. And some of the others I haven't been able to get hold of. So it's definitely gone, I think, down my list of priorities. I always knew that January and February this year I would be doing a lot of reading, and that comes sort of the middle of March, things would slow down. I'm going to talk about 2 reasons why that is, but my kind of available time I knew would change, and it is doing. So I'm definitely going to be reading less. So that's why I think the Climate Fiction Prize, it's kind of going down my list a little bit. However, the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction, I'm blatantly just reading through this and I am prioritising it. There are 16 books on the long list. I had already read 3 of them when the long list was announced, which is fantastic. I would quite like to keep that up going forward, so reading a lot of non-fiction throughout the year, so that when these kind of big non-fiction prizes get announced, that I might have actually read quite a lot of them. I would love that. That would be fantastic. So I had already read 3 of them. I have now read in total 7 books, so I'm quite happy about that. I think only having 9 left, I think that sounds really good. And I am about 70% of the way through one at the moment, so pretty soon it's going to be 8 books. And that's really great, and I'm absolutely loving it. I don't like every book that I've read, but I can appreciate the value of them and why they're on the long list. But I'm really, really enjoying this as a book prize. So the last one is the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction. Now, I have always kind of really wanted to read this, and every year Katie from Books and Things would do a video talking about it. She has for the last couple of years, I think, but she would always mention it. And it's always been one that I've had my eye on. And I quite often liked a lot of the books, or had read some of the books on the long list, but never kind of committed myself to reading the whole long list. I would like to read as many as I can. I was going to read all of them, but then I got one and DNF'd it. So does that really count? I got about 100 pages in. But there are 12 books on the long list, and I had already read one and hated it when the long list was announced. So that's 11 to go. I have since read 2 and DNF'd one, the one about football. I'm not a huge football fan. I tried. I really wanted to love it. Anyway, so I've got 8 to go, and I already have 6 either from the library, 6 of those 8 from the library, or have bought them because I've bought 3 of them. So I think there are good odds that I will definitely get through another 6, but whether I get through the 8 that I've got left, I am not sure. So those are kind of some of my reading plans about where I am. Like I said, I'm going to deprioritise some of the long lists and probably take it a little bit longer to read them. I'm making really good progress on the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction, so I wouldn't mind reading all of those, but I'm going to see where I am because things are really starting to slow down in terms of my reading and the available time that I have. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of, or where I'm at in terms of my reading. I want to talk about a book which is coming out in June 2026. So this is the main reason why I need to talk about books in this video, which is mostly not books. I heard about this the other day on Blue Sky because I follow the author who has written this book, and my first reaction was, oh my god, this is the most exciting thing. I've never been so excited about a book. It's a non-fiction book, but I have never been so excited, like ever. And my second reaction was, I must mention this on a video because there is at least one person in my comments, and I'm pretty sure you'll know who you are, who has very similar tastes to me in terms of the subject matter of this book and will be so excited. And not only that, I think there are quite a few other people as well who definitely, we've had moments where we've talked about this in my comments, but one person in particular, you know who you are. So the author of this is Sathnam Sanghera, who I think is most well known for writing Empire Land, and I've forgotten the name of his other book, I will put on the screen. I've not read any of his books, but I really, really want to. And I just haven't yet found the space within my reading schedule to make time for them, but I really want to. So the book that he has written is called Tonight the Music Seems So Loud, which if you're a fan, you'll know what that's a reference to. But this is a book about George Michael. Now, as the world's biggest George Michael fan, as I am, I mean, some people may disagree, but you're wrong, I am. This is literally the most exciting thing to me. So I will drop a link below. If I can link directly to a post on Blue Sky, I'm not sure if I can, but I will drop a link below to the author's announcement, because he did a video which I just thought was fantastic and spoke about how many other musicians, big musicians, have books written by very serious writers and journalists, and George Michael just doesn't get the love and attention that he should. This is a book that is, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look up the description. I've realised that I have the description of the book saved on my phone, which I'm currently filming on. One moment. It doesn't currently have a cover, but I would be quite happy if this were the cover. I have pre-ordered it. It's literally not out for over a year and a half. So this book portrays the extraordinary life and times of one of Britain's most beloved musical icons, George Michael. I fell in love with George Michael when I was 6, I think. I first bought my first Wham record. Anyway, through the lens of George Michael's life, Sathnam Sanghera, the prize-winning author of Empire Land, writes a kaleidoscopic story of immigration, homophobia, fame, the 80s and 90s, creative and musical genius, the tabloids, addiction, obsessive fans, shame, and why the love for George Michael has only grown in the years since his tragic death on Christmas Day 2016. That was a Christmas that I actually spent alone because various reasons, but I was by myself. I don't mind spending Christmas by myself. I have done quite a few times, but I was alone by myself in my house and I heard that announcement. I think it was announced on Boxing Day, and oh my god, I was unhappy. It was a sad Christmas. Christmas Day was great. Oh, the day after. Anyway, that book sounds amazing. I'm so excited about it. So you can expect to hear me banging on about it for the foreseeable future, because I don't actually think the author has finished writing the book yet. In his video, he implied that he hadn't. You better write it, and it better not be delayed. I'll be very angry. The next thing I really wanted to talk about is games. I do sometimes talk about board games on this channel, and I haven't had any new ones recently, so I don't have anything to report as far as that goes. But I do have 2 PlayStation games I want to talk about. I was inspired to actually talk about these by watching a video from Katie from Books and Things. I will try and find a link to that video where she talked about a kind of literary game, as in it, she thought, I think it would be good for people who are interested in reading, has a kind of literary quality to it. And I just thought, oh, that's such a good idea to talk about games like that, because there's a couple that I've been playing that I really want to talk about. So the first one is a game called Pentiment. Now I'm going to put some pictures on the screen to show you what the game is like. But Pentiment is basically, it's set in Europe, in Germany, just kind of around the time of the Reformation, and it looks like a medieval manuscript, and when you move from one scene to another, it kind of opens the manuscript page, which does get quite annoying, I've got to be honest, and then shows you the manuscript and then changes. But you basically play as a character who is an artist, and he is currently kind of working from a monastery scriptorium, very unrealistic, but just go with it. Someone gets murdered in the first chapter. The book has, the game, not the book, sorry, the game has 3 chapters. And in the first chapter, somebody gets murdered, and you basically have to solve what happens. But not every conversation, but most conversations will have an impact on what happens in the future game, and some of them impact the next chapters as to who trusts you and who doesn't. So it's a lot of kind of decision making about what you do. It's a lot of reading. I actually had to turn off the feature where it kind of scrolls on the screen as people are speaking. It kind of scrolls, and it uses different fonts or different writing styles for how educated the person is, and it would also show them like sort of making spelling mistakes and kind of the manuscript correcting that spelling, which is quite cute. I had to turn that off because movement on a screen gives me migraines, so I had to turn that off after a while. But it's really good, and I've managed to convince lots of friends to play it as well, which is fantastic. They just keep sending me messages like, oh my god, I can't believe I had to accuse this person of murder, I didn't want to. It's just really great fun. It looks great as well. If you're at all interested in history, especially medieval history, it is really good for that, because it kind of it gives you like a glossary. So every time something is referred to, you can kind of click on the glossary, and it gives you a little explanation of kind of what is happening and what it means. So I just thought that was fantastic. It's a really, really fun game. If you, like me, are a completionist, and on the PlayStation you get trophies, and you want to get all of the trophies, you will have to do a run through of the game probably about 12 times, because you have to do different scenarios and make different decisions in order to get different trophies, which irritated the hell out of me, but I've played this game a lot. But it's really great for just like an hour of just switching your brain off and doing some reading and learning about history. That's not switching your brain off, Jen, is it? But I'm a massive geek, so that's clearly how I like to relax. The other game I found when I actually just Googled games like Pentiment, because I was having such a good time, there was one website which recommended Pillars of the Earth, and I thought, that's not a game, that's a book by Ken Follett. I really liked Pillars of the Earth, and I've seen the TV series as well, which I really loved. And I clicked on this game and I thought, oh, it's for PC, and I don't own a PC, but I also don't play PC games. But then I realised it is available on PlayStation, so other consoles and desktop as well are available. But there is a Pillars of the Earth game, which I had no idea. Like, why did nobody tell me this existed? It's fantastic. It's very dark and very creepy, and it's somewhat similar to how I was describing Pentiment, in that you walk around and you make decisions. However, if you have read The Pillars of the Earth or seen the TV show, you will know what happens. And that is what happens in the game. So I don't think your decisions actually, spoilers, I don't think they actually make any difference. I think you eventually get led to doing the same thing. So I think maybe you just take a slightly different route, but the same thing happens. So it just kind of follows the story. The first kind of, not everything that happens in the book is in the game. It's a very, very short game. I think it was about $1.99 on PlayStation a little while ago. I don't know how much it is now. If I remember, I will look it up and tell you how much it currently is in the UK. But it was incredibly cheap, and it's made by quite a small company. And I think they're a German company. I might just be making stuff up. But it was really good fun, and especially for a kind of really short, quick game. But I have been having great fun, so I did want to recommend that game to you as well. So I was thinking that I know other people, when they do kind of chatty catch-ups, they tell you about fun things they've been watching. Well, really the only thing I've been watching is Drive to Survive on Netflix. I always watch it. I don't have Netflix normally, and I only get it, I only pay for it for a month. I wish you'd get like a day pass to Netflix and make it cheaper, because then I could just binge watch Drive to Survive. But I just get it in March so that I can watch it. So if you haven't seen it, Drive to Survive is the Formula 1 show. That's on Netflix, and it's great. And you don't have to watch all of them. You could just watch the latest season, which basically covers the last year of Formula 1. It's completely over the top and completely ridiculous and dramatic, and some of the bits are fake, like the fake radio bits where they've just got the people, they've got like team principals driving in their car listening to fake radio that doesn't exist. I mean, it's just ridiculous, but it gets me excited for Formula 1, and I quite like that. I've been watching Formula 1 for oh my God, how many years? Since I was 17, so since 1997. And I absolutely love it. And in fact, today, as I'm filming this, is the 2-year anniversary of my dad's death. And at his funeral, I got to do the eulogy and I got to talk about how basically we did fake arguments our entire Formula One relationship since I was 17 and I started finally admitting that I liked it. He had always liked it. He was very glad that I finally got around to his way of seeing it. Anyway, in my eulogy, I got to talk about how we used to have these fake arguments over who was the best Formula One driver of all time. I always thought it was Fernando Alonso. He always thought it was Lewis Hamilton. And I did get to say in front of his coffin, okay, you were right. I gave him that. It is Lewis Hamilton. So this weekend is the first race of the year. It's actually tomorrow as I'm filming this. And it's really sad that I don't get to message my dad and talk about this anymore. But I know he would be loving the fact that Lewis Hamilton is driving for Ferrari. So I just wanted to kind of say that in this video. This should go at the end with personal stuff, but I'm going to put it in what I am watching. Formula One. It's still very emotional to talk about my dad, but I am looking forward to watching some Formula One and thinking about how he was right all along. Okay, fine. So one of the things that's going to be taking up a lot of my time from now onwards is Formula One, because it takes up so much of my weekend when it's on. I don't watch the races live because unfortunately I can't afford Sky, but it does mean I get to choose when I watch it. And I do pay the £3.99 to get Channel 4 with no adverts on, what's it called, on streaming, on play, I can't remember what it's called, but I do fork out for that so that I can just watch the Formula One whenever I want with no bloody adverts. Let's move on to a PhD update. I was asked in my last video what my PhD is about, and if I could talk about kind of where I'm at and what I am currently doing. So I have spoke in other videos before. I do these like PhD diaries every so often. I've spoke at great length about what my PhD is about. I will drop a link below to a whole playlist of those videos. If you're interested in watching, please do. I can do it though. I think in less than 2 minutes, I can explain to you exactly what my PhD is about. So I'm going to do that now. There will be a timestamp for PhD explanation followed by update of PhD. So my PhD is about the First World War poet Wilfred Owen. During his lifetime, Wilfred Owen only published 5 poems, and 3 of those were published in the magazine of the military hospital that he was a patient at, and he was also the editor of that magazine when it published his poems. So his poems were not very widely known amongst a large group of people. They weren't published anywhere else. His mum read a lot of his poems. And he died a week before the end of the First World War. So at the time of his death, his poems not only weren't published, but they were also left in multiple different drafts with no dates, most of them, no indication of which one might be the last one or the preferred one, or sometimes there were different variations of different lines or different words with different like 10 different words. Oh, I might use this one, I might use this one. And they were all over the place. Some were with his mum, someone with Siegfried Sassoon, someone with some other people, his cousin, and blah, blah, blah. So they were all over the place and it was total chaos. Now, if you then fast forward to the 21st century, Wilfred Owen is probably one of the most famous British poets, not just of the First World War, but of the 21st century, the 20th century. He's regularly included in anthologies of war poets, 20th century poets, queer poets. He's basically super famous. So how do you go from being completely unknown and dead to super famous? That's basically my PhD. It's about posthumous publishing. It's about who published his poems, where did they get them from, which versions did they choose to say this is the final draft, which words did they choose and why, and what massive arguments did they have with each other, because there was a lot of arguments. And luckily for me, they wrote it all down in letters and left them in archives, mostly. There are some completely original things that I have discovered which no one else has published before. Can't wait to publish those, very excited. But it's essentially that, how do you become famous when you're dead? That's basically what my PhD is about. So where we're at the moment, I say we, I am literally the only person doing this. I just passed my transfer. So the way that my university does it is that it kind of technically registers you, although you do apply to do a PhD, they technically register you as an MPhil student, which is a master's by research. And you get to this point where you have to officially transfer from the MPhil to the PhD. Now, most people do this, but some people, it gets to a point where they say, okay, so what you have to do, it would make more sense if I explain this first. You have to submit a form, which includes a statement of 1,000 words where you say, this is what I've done so far, this is what I still have left to do, and this is how I intend to fit it in the time that I have left. You have to submit, like, I submitted a spreadsheet with like a chart of exactly which months and what I'm doing when, and you have to submit 2 chapters to prove that you've done the work and to show that it's of PhD standard, which is basically publishable standard. And you have to talk about what is completely new and original about your work, because if it's a PhD, it has to be completely new, original and groundbreaking. So I had to submit all of this. That then goes to my supervisors, who approve it or not. They did. And they have to write a statement about how great they think I am. They did. And I'm so lucky. And that then goes to 2 people who are unrelated to, normally within your department or faculty, who are unrelated to my PhD. They're not my supervisors or anything like that. And they have to then read it. And then you have like a mini viva, which is like, I guess, in preparation for the final thing, where they read it and then they quiz you over Zoom actually, but over kind of what you've written and if it's any good, and massive holes in your research and what about this and you didn't think about that, which is quite nerve-wracking when it's only a draft that they're looking at. But I basically went through that process. I passed. It's now official. That is now done. So I'm now officially on the PhD, and I can officially finish my PhD now. But part of that process, which was kind of before Christmas, I was really busy before Christmas, and I knew that after Christmas I would be doing the Viva, and then I would be kind of focusing on that, and then I was going to take a bit of time off and then get started on my chapters, because the next thing I have to do, according to the chart that I submitted with my own timeline, but I do think it's necessary to do it like this, I have to submit, no, I don't have to submit, I have to finish writing a complete first draft of all chapters by May, which is not that far away. I didn't specify the beginning or the end of May, so it will be the end of May, absolutely. So what that means is, so the final thing needs to be between 80 and 90,000 words. I have currently written about 50,000. Okay. So what I did sort of the end of January and throughout February was I had a look again at my first chapter. That's kind of fine. It's got a lot of work that still needs doing, but it's okay for the moment. I worked again on chapter 2. Chapter 3 is a mess, so I kind of worked on that and edited that again. And I knew that that would be quite easy. And then I got to chapter 4, which is it's the chapter that I was like dreading writing, because it's the hardest. It's like, this is the thing. It's basically about whether Wilfred Owen is gay. And it's the hardest chapter to write because it's the most controversial. But I did get to do like a whole section where I was talking about all of these poems that people think are like super gay, but they're actually, he's just talking about bayonets. It's not that sexual. It's just not as gay as you think it is. However, this poem that he wrote about, literally about a rent boy, this is definitely gay. Anyway, it's not poetry analysis I'm doing, it's publishing. That's what my PhD is in. But it was just a really hard chapter to write because I had to include lots of stuff from history and lots of stuff from literature and lots of like queer theory, which I don't know a huge amount about, and compile that all together to try and make this kind of coherent argument. And I was writing it from scratch. I've now moved on to the next chapter, which again, writing from scratch. So that's going to be keeping me very, very busy in the next few months. So my wrap-ups will probably be smaller because I will have less to talk about, but I might start talking about some of the complete books that I have to read. So quite often I just have to dip in and out of books for my PhD, maybe read a chapter here or there, but there's quite a few books I do have to read in their entirety. Quite a lot of them seem to be about Oscar Wilde, so a lot of those will be coming up, so I'm quite happy about that. But that is where we are at with the PhD. So I might update you regularly on how we're doing, but by the end of May the first draft will be done. The conclusion will not be done, probably the introduction either, because that includes a lot of theory, but I'm going to give it a good go. But the chapters, Okay, I will try the introduction, but anyway, everything is gonna be done, and then I just need to edit and edit and edit the hell out of it. The whole thing is due, I should say, by November 2026. Now that isn't the official definite deadline, as in I can continue, but I don't have the money or the emotional willpower to keep going longer than that. So you heard it here first. Well, you didn't. I literally did this in my transfer interview, but none of you were there. So on this video, you're hearing it first, that I will have finished my PhD by November 2026. I will get distracted by the George Michael book in the meantime. I wonder if I can somehow work that into... No, I can't. Anyway, let's move on to the next bit, which is a little bit of personal stuff. I just wanted to update you because I know that this is stuff I've mentioned on previous videos, so I just wanted to keep you up to date with what's happening. Last summer, I had 6 jobs. Yeah. I have quit 3 jobs since last September. There's still one that I'm kind of working on, which I will be leaving in April. I really didn't want to leave that job. I didn't want to leave any of them, actually. I've enjoyed all of them, but I need to answer the phone because my wife is calling. Hang on. Slight interlude then. My wife just called me to discuss pastry options. I'm making breakfast for a friend tomorrow. It's his birthday, so he's going to come over and we're going to Mary's going to make pancakes. I'm going to put the kettle on. So she's buying some croissants as well. I don't know why we need croissants as well as what they call pancakes. I've forgotten. Vegan pancakes made out of bananas. I'll try and get the recipe and drop a link below. We have discussed it now. They didn't have any croissants. I'm sure you were dying to know this. We're just having chocolate chip brioche instead. It's too late in the day to be making brioche. We're gonna have to buy some. I've made it once and it wasn't good. I'm still determined though. Anyway, so I had 6 jobs. I've quit 3, or 1 is finishing soon. So by the end of April, I will only have 2 jobs, which is amazing, and they will both be in libraries. So I'm really, really happy about that. The other thing I wanted to update, I'm aware that I haven't spoken about in a while, so people who've been around here for a while might remember. You might have forgotten. It's not that, it's not that important to you. But anyone who's new, you won't know this. So I have suffered from chronic pain from a cycling injury for the last, how long is it now? 13 years? It'll be 13 years this summer. Basically, without going into a huge amount of medical detail, I'm in pain all the time, constantly. Quite often I read via audiobook so that I can walk around and do other things, because sitting down for too long hurts. Standing up for too long also hurts. Moving hurts, not moving hurts. It's great fun. But I've been seeing an osteopath for the last couple of years, and it's a really difficult balancing act to kind of do enough exercise to keep active, to keep fit, to keep me sane and to keep me out of pain. But then if I do too much, then you kind of get in pain. Anyway, it's a really difficult balancing act. But I think we're getting to a point where things very slowly are starting to improve, which means that currently I'm not in pain every single day, or every single second of every single day. Most days I am in pain, actually. You have to laugh otherwise. But yeah, at least it's not every second of every single day. And it is currently most of the time not the thing that is waking me up in the middle of the night, because quite often I wake up in pain and not be able to get back to sleep. So I've actually been able to sleep. I feel slightly less delirious now. I don't have 2 hours sleep a night. The only thing keeping me asleep now, or the only thing keeping me awake rather, is perimenopause, which I know from a recent plod along is some people's favourite subject, so I thought I should mention it. But honestly, I woke up the other night so warm. Anyway, that's the only thing kind of affecting my life at the moment. So that was a very long, I think. I've had to restart the video, so it's currently only a 3-minute video, so I'm quite happy about that. But I think that was a very long update, just about kind of what is going on at the moment. I will probably do I will do another one of these in a few months, and hopefully I will have some more things to update that aren't just books related, and I've written some PhD and looking slightly more distressed. I'll probably have something about Wilfred Owen to tell you, and all the Oscar Wilde books I'm reading. And by that point, we will be midway through the Formula 1 season, so we'll find out if Williams are actually going to do anything other than be last this year. Come on, come on. Okay, so that was my little update. Let me know in the comments below just anything nice that's been happening in your life, anything related to anything that I've said, any other questions you have for me. How excited are you about the George Michael book? Oh my God, I'm very excited. What is your breakfast of choice? Let's ask that question. So I would love to know what is the best breakfast according to you. Now, obviously it's some kind of savoury thing with pineapple on, but that's not true. My, I think, preferred breakfast of choice is coffee, orange juice, some kind of pastry. That would just be amazing. But Mary makes amazing pancakes. I don't think she actually uses a recipe, so if you're looking in the description box below, it's probably not the real recipe. But those are my favourite breakfast things. And oh my God, okay, crumpets with fig jam is so good. I bought some fig jam recently. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Okay, we're just talking about breakfasts at this point. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below, and I will see you very soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching.